A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillah rahman rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Muhammad Abdul-Kareem, and this will be a continuance of the reading of Tom Burells' book, Brainwashed. We're continuing on chapter 3. This one is labeled Studs and Sluts. Why do we conform to black sexual stereotypes? So we'll begin. Love seems with them to be more an eager desire than a tender, delicate mixture of sentiment and sensation. Thomas Jefferson. By plan or by circumstance, the April 2008 edition of Vogue magazine garnered worldwide attention. It wasn't because it featured the first black man ever on its cover. No, the controversy was linked to Vogue's decision to personify a classic American stereotype. With his towering 6'8" frame, anchored by size 16 shoe, NBA star LeBron James, nicknamed King James, struck a familiar pose on the magazine's cover. Gorilla-like, baring his teeth, flexing his muscles, with one hand dribbling a ball, the other clutching the tiny, slinky waist of white, blonde supermodel Gisele Bündchen. Kong on the court. The criticism was swift and furious. Sport columnists and cultural commentators accused editors of the influential fashion magazine of monkeying around with James' image, evoking the centuries-old stereotype of the black savage in search of the prized white woman to give their annual issue devoted to size and shape a little extra thrill. Others noted that the image by famed photographer Annie Leibovitz was eerily similar to a 1933 King Kong movie poster in which the giant, raging, dark ape carries off a fair-skinned damsel in distress. "I was just having fun with it," LeBron told reporters, dismissing the controversy. We had a few looks and that was the best one we had. Everything my name is on is going to be criticized, in a good way or a bad way. Who cares honestly at the end of the day? Who cares? We all should. Here's why. In framing King James as King Kong, Vogue, which reaches 1.2 million readers a month, perpetuated one of the most enduring stereotypes of black sexuality, the brute. He is the oversexed, menacing black man, inherently violent, destructive, and shady. He appears on MTV as the gun-wielding, muscle-bound rapper 50 Cent in the film New Jack City, as a vicious crime lord playing by Wesley Snipes, and throughout pornography as the well-endowed Mandingo and ravaging the purity of white women. LeBron may have been having fun, but little did he know he was playing with an ugly, debilitating stereotype that dates back several centuries. Supersexed. Two powerful slave-era images are still active, still distorted, still damaging, and thanks to our black inferiority complex, still perpetuated by our own people. Brute. Noun. A non-human creature. Bestial animal qualities, desires, etc. Adjective. Animal. Non-human. Not characterized by intelligence or reason. Irrational savage. Cruel source dictionary.com. Jezebel. Noun. A woman who is regarded as evil and scheming, a wicked, shameless woman. Source dictionary.com. Surely we all know someone who fits the mold of the black brute or the gold-digging black Jezebel. If not personally, we've seen their amplified personas via televised media and marketing images, pop literature, or on saucy music videos. As with black family dysfunction, we are familiar with the contemporary manifestations of the studs and sluts phenomenon. Studs and sluts dynamics. Studs on the hunt. Men who define themselves by their sexuality and sexual exploits. They are constantly on the sexual hunt with self-worth directly tied to their conquest and sexual performances. Sex is a higher priority than job advancement, fatherhood, or real relationships. They will risk all in the pursuit of the quarry. They cannot and will not get too involved with their conquests. They have an internalized brutish nature. I'm doing this to you, not with you, is their mantra. They animalize, dehumanize, and objectify women to reinforce the idea that they are unworthy of emotional commitment and long-term involvement. 2. Gold-digging slut. Jezebel-like sex objects believe that to get anywhere in life, they have to be really good at it. Sex is their ticket, their moneymaker. Gold diggers allow themselves to be conquest in return for material gain. Dinners, jewelry, rent, or a starring role in a video. They are conditioned to devalue sex. Their innate emotions and need for tenderness, compassion, and love are constantly repressed. They believe they are unworthy of love and respect and avoid disappointment at all costs. Number 3, gotta do what you gotta do. Sex as a means of subsistence and immediate gratification. Sex without emotion. Defensive self-devaluation justifies their sensation-driven life. Propaganda validates their actions. Sexual behavior is legitimate and necessary to make it. They disassociate themselves from their bodies and the possibility of a legitimate means to holistic, authentic love. Yes, we know studs and sluts exist, but here we attempt to understand why and examine the impact these stereotypes have on a race still in need of therapy. Let's decode the enduring legacy of the brute and the Jezebel. Ape by association. We believe that even among people who aren't particularly prejudiced, the association between blacks and apes is still strong, held in place through implicit knowledge, the result of a lifetime of conditioning rooted in historical representation of blacks as less than human. It was a kind of racial programming, a legacy even something as progressive as Obama's election cannot obliterate. Philip Atiba Goff and Jennifer L. Eberhard, social psychologist, the belief that blacks are sexual savages descended from fiction rooted in the first impressions of Africans. Englishmen were introduced to the chimpanzee and black Africans in Western Africa at the same time and place. The startling human appearance and movements of the chimpanzee aroused their imagination. According to A. Elaine Brown Crawford, As early as the mid 1500s, English explorers and traders who traveled to Africa mistook the semi-nudity of Africans as lewdness. They also misappropriated the cultural tradition of polygamy as uncontrollable lust. In European eyes, the warfare diet, and other aspects of African life they encountered placed Africans among the beast. Africa, seen as the dark continent, possessed a natural landscape upon which lions, zebras, and other exotic wildlife flourished. Therefore, the people in the strange geography surely merited comparison with the beast with which they coexist. The grand poobah of the founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, helped legitimize the belief that blacks are akin to apes. In his notes on the state of Virginia, the most widely read book of the period, Jefferson argued that blacks prefer the superior beauty of whites as uniformly as is the preference of the orang-utan for the black woman over those of his own species. Size matters. On the South Side, all the white men and white women would come to the clubs to try to get black women and black men. It was a mixer. In those days, the penis thing was so damn powerful that white women were not frightened. They'd come and drive to your neighborhood, coming to look for it. They'd ask you, "Do you have a big one?" Ron, a 74-year-old artist, and I were born in the same era, about 73 years after black slavery were emancipated. It was a time when we still navigated in the dark eddies of harsh racial undercurrents. Loving interracial relationships were still deadly taboo, especially between black males and white females. White men, however, could use black women for sexual gratification without social condemnation. These men inherited a system designed to keep them advantaged and empowered. Those cunning 17th century colonial leaders managed to establish a code of behavior that gave white men the best of both worlds, unfettered access to black women while barricading black men from white women. The colonial fathers understood that slave owners were, first and foremost, men. Rape, at its core, is a power trip, a means to exert control. The institution of slavery provided ample opportunity for white slave holders to unleash their puritanically repressed sexual urges on female slaves who were powerless to reject their advances. Thomas Jefferson provided a moral escape clause that allowed lascivious Christian slavery to sexually subjugate black women. Jefferson helped extinguish religious guilt by animalizing slaves, defining them as unfeeling, emotional beasts. They are more ardent after their female, but love seems with them to be more an eager desire than a tender, delicate mixture of sentiment and sensation. Their existence appears to participate more of sensation than reflection. An animal whose body is at rest and who does not reflect. The slaveholder carnal, beastly behaves was also legitimized with propaganda as effective that blacks, slaves and free, absorbed its messages and throughout the century acted out the propagandized stereotypes. Jefferson's obsession with black sexuality overlapped with white scientists' fixation with African penises, specimens of which were collected and studied. In the N word, who can say it, who shouldn't, and why? Author Jabari Asim quotes British niggerologist Charles White, who, in his 1799 anatomy study, gushed that the penis of an African is larger than that of a European has been shown in every anatomical school in London. Preparations of them are preserved in most anatomical museums, and I have one in mind. LeBron, as the modern day rendition of the brutish ape like menace preying on a fair skinned maiden, does indeed matter, especially in a society still fixated on warped racial images. However, the brute is but one half of a destructive, diabolical duo. His counterpart in the marketing of black inferiority is the Jezebel. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.